You and your kid are just freeloaders. That's what my younger sister said to me, while she was living in the very house I paid for. And guess what? What did I do? Did I tolerate it? Or did I teach her a lesson? Follow my story and give me your advice. A year ago, I stood in front of my parents' house, where I was born and raised. The sky was gray, mirroring exactly how I felt at that moment. It had been 15 years since I last set foot here, and if it weren't for my mother's urgent phone call, I would never have returned. Hi, my name is Hannah. I'm 34 years old and a creative director at an advertising agency in Seattle. I have a 10-year-old son, Noah. He is my entire world. I remember that fateful Saturday when my mother called, her voice trembling. You need to come home immediately. The family is in serious trouble. But the family she talked about had never truly included me, because for as long as I could remember, only one person in this family ever mattered. My younger sister, Emily. The memory of the day I walked out of that house is still vivid. I was 19, holding an acceptance letter from UCLA, when my parents called me into the living room and delivered the news that shattered me. We used your entire college fund to invest in Emily. I remember standing there, completely stunned. Invest. I choked out. My mother nodded as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Emily has a gift for the arts. We enrolled her in a prestigious academy. She needs that money to follow her dream. Emily's dream? What about mine? You can take out student loans for college, Hannah. But this opportunity for Emily, it's once in a lifetime, my mother said, trying to make me understand. And so I left home on a sweltering summer night with nothing but an old suitcase, a few sets of clothes, and the little money I had saved from odd jobs in high school. No one saw me off. Not a single word of concern. My parents didn't give me a dime. No financial support, secret check, or hidden savings account to help me start a new life. They left me with the occasional phone calls, just enough to maintain appearances. Are you doing okay? My mother asked one Tuesday afternoon, 2 months after I had left. For a moment, I wanted to believe she cared, but as soon as I answered, her tone remained indifferent. Good. I was checking. Oh, by the way, Emily has been so busy lately. She was just accepted as a student by a renowned professor. I went silent, no words of encouragement. There were no questions about how I managed or whether I had enough to eat. Just Emily, Emily, and more Emily. Every call after that was the same. It's just a formality, so they wouldn't have to feel guilty. Looking back at my college years, I remember how I juggled school and work, constantly moving between classes and shifts. By day, I was a dedicated student. By night, I was a barista at a small coffee shop, sometimes picking up extra hours at a convenience store to afford rent. There were nights when I had to sleep at work because I couldn't afford my room. Days when I survived on expired bread because I had to choose between paying tuition or buying food. I struggled. I broke down. I cried through long, lonely nights. But I never looked back. Every time exhaustion made me want to give up. I remembered my parents' indifferent faces when they told me my dreams didn't matter as much as Emily's, and that became my motivation to keep going. After 4 years of struggling to balance school and work, I graduated with honors and was fortunate to land a stable job at a major advertising firm in Seattle. For the first time, I didn't have to worry about rent. I didn't have to count every penny at the grocery store. I didn't have to take on extra night shifts to survive. I thought my parents would be proud of me, but the truth was, they didn't care about the journey I had been through. They only cared about one thing: I had money now. It started with casual holiday messages. Are you coming home for Christmas? We're planning a big party. I'm sure you'd love to contribute a little, right? Thanksgiving is coming up. Could you order a fine china set for me? I saw a beautiful one on XYZ's website. Just $500. I know your job is going well. Your dad's birthday is coming up. Don't you want to get him a new watch? You know how much he loves Rolex. Every invitation came with a subtle suggestion for an expensive gift. Not a single question about how I was doing. Not a single conversation about my life. Just money. I wasn't surprised. But I declined every request. I'm busy with work. I won't be able to make it. My schedule is full. Go ahead and order that gift for Dad. Send the bill to Emily. She's always been the most important one anyway. I didn't care what they thought. They abandoned me first. I had no reason to play by their rules. But I am not ungrateful, though I could never forgive them. I still sent a small amount of money on their birthdays, $2,000, not because I felt obligated but simply because I wanted to keep my conscience clear. Birthday money for dad/mom. Hope you use it wisely. No warm wishes, no card. It is just a cold, impersonal bank transfer, quick and detached. I didn't expect gratitude. And, of course, they never once said thank you. 2 years after graduating, I got married. He was once my colleague, witty, charming, and seemingly a responsible man. We built a small family together, and then Noah was born. But marriage is never simple. Sleepless nights are soothing a crying baby. Arguments over household responsibilities. The silent moments when there was nothing left to say. I did. But then, one day I discovered he was cheating. I didn't cry. I didn't ask questions. I packed up his things, left them by the door, and said calmly, "You can leave now or wait until I throw everything out the window." We divorced after 3 years. Still, he remained a responsible father. Every month, he contributed financially to support Noah, and that was all I needed from him. After everything, I became a strong woman, not because I wanted to, but because life left me no choice. I no longer believed in romantic relationships. No dating, no love, no searching for someone to fill any space in my life. Noah was everything to me. Every morning I took him to school. Every night I read him a bedtime story. We watched movies, cooked together on weekends, or lounged on the sofa, enjoying the peace I had sacrificed so much to earn. After 7 years of hard work, I was promoted to creative director, a prestigious position with a $300,000 annual salary. With that, I bought a high-end apartment in downtown Seattle. Spacious, secure, fully equipped. A place where Noah and I could truly call home. Everything had finally fallen into place. I had a great job, a stable life, and most importantly, I had Noah, the only person in the world I truly cared about. But then, a phone call a year ago changed everything. "Come home right away. Your father is in the hospital. Our family is in serious trouble." My mother's voice trembled over the phone, and I heard real fear in her words for the first time in years. I gripped my phone tightly, my mind in turmoil. My first instinct was to ignore it. I was used to only being remembered when they needed something from me. This time was no different. But then, another thought crept in. No matter what, he was still my father. I had spent my entire youth running away from them, trying to forget the pain they had caused me. But what if this was indeed the last time? If I didn't return, would I regret it for the rest of my life? I wasn't going back for them. I was going back for myself because I didn't want to live with the guilt of not doing the right thing. The next afternoon, after a tower drive, I arrived home. My mother had informed me that my father had already been discharged from the hospital. When I pulled up, the door opened and there she stood, her eyes red and swollen. She looked older than I remembered, maybe because of time or the weight of her poor decisions. Inside, my father sat in his usual chair in the living room, his back slightly hunched, his hair now more silver than 15 years ago. I stepped in, Noah following behind me, silently taking everything in. My mother's gaze quickly shifted past me, landing on him. That was when she finally realized his presence. So did my father. They noticed something other than themselves for the first time since I walked through that door. "Oh my God." My mother covered her mouth, her voice trembling. My father blinked rapidly as if he couldn't believe what he saw. My son Noah was the grandson they had never cared about, asked about, or even tried to meet. He stood there, his blue eyes mirroring mine, his wavy brown hair slightly tousled, his small hand gripping the hem of my shirt. "Noah, right?" My mother finally spoke, her voice suddenly softer, almost unfamiliar. Noah nodded politely but cautiously. And then, as if someone had flipped a switch, my parents' demeanor completely changed. The people who had spent years manipulating me for money suddenly transformed into picture-perfect grandparents. "You've grown so much." "My goodness, he looks so smart." My mother beamed, reaching out as if to touch him. My father nodded approvingly. "He looks just like Hannah when she was little but taller." "Do you like sports, kiddo? I could teach you golf." I stood there, watching their little performance unfold. 30 seconds ago, they didn't care about me. But now when they saw Noah, they rushed to show affection as if they hadn't spent years pretending I didn't exist. After a few minutes of fawning over Noah, my mother finally invited me to sit. I didn't move. Arms crossed, I asked flatly, "Can we skip the act and get to the point?" She bit her lip, eyes welling up with tears. "The house is about to be repossessed by the bank, Hannah. We need help." I wasn't surprised. The moment she had called, I had already guessed the real reason. I waited for what came next. And, of course, the familiar name followed. Emily took out a huge loan to invest in her fashion boutique. But the business failed and she can't pay it back. We mortgaged the house to help her and now the bank is seizing it. I laughed. Emily. Always Emily. She screwed up and my parents rushed to fix it. She got into trouble and they pulled me in to clean up the mess. I turned to my father, who had been silently observing the conversation. "And now you want me to pay off her debt?" He nodded slowly without an ounce of shame. "You have a great job, Hannah. Just help a little so the family doesn't lose the house." I scoffed. "Whose family?" My parents looked at each other, saying nothing, because they knew the truth. They had never treated me like family. I wasn't surprised. But one thing was sure, this time I was no longer the weak, helpless girl I had been 15 years ago. I crossed my arms, my voice calm but cold. "How much is the debt?" My parents hesitated as if they hadn't expected me to ask that. My mother swallowed hard, then spoke carefully. "Around $250,000. But if we can pay $150,000 up front, the bank might extend the deadline." I laughed in disbelief. $150,000? Do you seriously think I will pull out that kind of money to save this house? My father sighed. "Hannah, $150,000. Isn't that much for you?" I clenched my fists, trying to contain my anger. But before I could respond, the door suddenly swung open. Emily walked in. She raised an eyebrow when she saw me, her expression dripping with mockery. "Oh, you showed up? Here to play the hero?" I exhaled sharply. "No. I saw how often they'd willingly sacrifice me for you." Emily scoffed, folding her arms, her voice sharp as a blade. "You always love playing the victim, don't you?" I stared at her, feeling a slow, burning fury rise inside me. Emily, the spoiled little sister who had never known hardship and always treated everything as if it were owed to her. My parents had stolen my future to give her everything, and now here she was, without a shred of remorse, without a hint of gratitude. She was waiting for me to sacrifice myself for her again. But this time I wouldn't. I took a deep breath, looked straight at my parents and Emily, and spoke clearly, emphasizing every word. "I need time to think. I'll give you my answer in 3 days." My mother sighed in relief, as if she had temporarily lifted a burden off her shoulders. My father nodded, his expression calm, but his eyes betrayed his anticipation. On the other hand, Emily rolled her eyes, crossing her arms with a smirk. "Still putting on a show, huh? We all know you'll come back with your wallet wide open." I didn't react. There was no need to. Without another word, I took Noah's hand and left a room filled with expectations and calculations. On the drive back, Noah spoke first, his voice filled with concern. "Mom, are you okay?" I gave him a reassuring smile, gently squeezing his tiny hand. "I'm okay, Noah. It's just, there are some things I need to think through carefully." Noah nodded, not pressing further, but I knew he could feel the tension in me. When I got home, I pulled out my phone and called Daniel, a close friend from college who was now a real estate attorney. As soon as he picked up, I skipped the pleasantries and got straight to the point. "Daniel, I need your advice. My parents are about to lose their house and of course, they expect me to bail them out." Daniel let out a short, amused laugh. His voice was laced with sarcasm. "So, after all these years, they suddenly remember you exist." I sighed, exhaustion creeping into my tone. "Exactly. And the most ridiculous part is, they act like my help is a given." Daniel was quiet for a few seconds before asking bluntly, "Hannah, are you seriously considering helping them?" I bit my lip, thinking for a moment before answering honestly. I don't want to help Emily, but I can't completely turn my back on my parents. No matter what, they're still the people who gave me life. Daniel sighed, his voice dropping slightly. "I have a suggestion if you want to help them while keeping things fair." I narrowed my eyes, wary. "Go on." Daniel spoke slowly and deliberately. You can buy the house outright and put it in your name. Let them live there, but not for free. Set a clear agreement. If they repay the $250,000 in full, the house returns to them. If not, it stays yours. I leaned back in my chair, mulling it over. This solution wouldn't just give my parents a place to stay and force them to take responsibility for their choices. More importantly, it ensured that Emily would never get another chance to drag me down again. Finally, I took a deep breath and said firmly, I like this plan. Do it. Daniel chuckled through the phone. You've always been the rational one, Hannah. All right, I'll handle the paperwork. I hung up and stared out the window. In 3 days, I would return to that house. But this time, things would be on my terms. 3 days later, I returned to my childhood home, this time with Daniel, my attorney. I didn't come empty-handed. I came up with a contract that would bind everything legally. When my parents opened the door, their faces were filled with worry and anticipation. I could tell they had convinced themselves that I would offer a reasonable solution, meaning a large sum of money with no strings attached. They were wrong. Daniel and I stepped inside and took a seat. Wasting no time, I placed the contract on the table and spoke clearly, enunciating every word. I will buy this house and hold legal ownership. You can continue living here, but only as tenants. To regain ownership, you must pay back $250,000 within 5 years. If not, the house remains mine. And Emily, I turned to her, my voice like steel, you will not be entitled to a single cent of that money. Silence. My parents were stunned as if they couldn't believe what they had just heard. My mother immediately burst into tears, her voice breaking. Hannah, how could you do this to your parents? My father stayed quiet, likely trying to assess the situation. But Emily? She didn't even try to contain her outrage. Are you insane? She shrieked, eyes blazing with fury. You're seriously making mom and dad pay to live in their own home? What kind of daughter does that? You're ungrateful. I stood up instantly, picking up the contract from the table. All right then. Forget it. My voice was ice cold as I turned toward the door. Panic set in immediately. Wait, Hannah. My father's voice was sharp, urgent. I paused, glancing back at him with a silent challenge in my eyes. My mother wiped her tears and quickly nodded. We accept your terms. I smirked internally. I knew they would. Daniel quickly finalized the paperwork. And 2 weeks later, the house was legally mine. My parents gradually accepted reality. They stopped trying to renegotiate the terms, probably realizing I wouldn't change my mind. But Emily, she refused to accept it. I knew she wouldn't let go quickly, but I hadn't expected her to stoop this low. The war began 2 days later. It was a Sunday. I was at home with Noah when my phone buzzed. Hannah, have you seen Facebook yet? A message from a coworker. Are you okay? Everyone's talking about you. A text from an old friend. I frowned and immediately opened Facebook. The first thing I saw was Emily's latest post, along with an old picture of me and Noah. Emily Thompson. It's heartbreaking to have a sister with no shame. A single mother, abandoned by her husband. Now exploiting her parents for profit. She makes much money but still forces our elderly parents to pay rent. Not surprising, really. She's always been a leech. She was selfish even as a child and always jealous of me. And now, she's pressured our parents into signing over the house and kicked me out of the only home I've ever known. I wonder when she'll stop playing the victim, considering she's the worst manipulator. Below the post were hundreds of comments from people who had no idea what happened. What kind of sister does this? Poor Emily. She must be heartbroken. Can't believe someone would treat their parents like that over money. I laughed. But it wasn't a laugh of amusement. Emily had made a colossal mistake. She hadn't just spread lies about me. She had dragged my son into this. And that was something I would never forgive. I left my room to find Noah sitting at the dining table, looking uneasy. Mom, my friend just messaged me. They saw Aunt Emily's post. His voice grew quieter with each word. I clenched my fists before sitting across from him, forcing myself to stay calm. Noah, don't worry. I'll take care of this. Noah nodded, but I could see a deep sadness in his eyes. I immediately called Daniel, my attorney. He picked up on the second ring. Hannah, what's going on? I need you to send a legal notice. Immediately. My voice was ice cold. I had no time to waste. Daniel was silent for a second before asking, what did Emily do this time? I clenched my jaw. She defamed me online. But more importantly, she dragged Noah into it. Daniel's tone shifted, turning serious. That's bad. I'll draft a formal demand for her to take down the post immediately along with a legal warning. If she continues spreading lies, she'll face real consequences. Good. I took a deep breath before adding, I want her out of my house in 2 days. Daniel didn't sound surprised. I figured this was only a matter of time. I'll handle the paperwork. But be ready for some major theatrics. I let out a dry laugh. You know me, I've never been afraid of a fight. That afternoon, Daniel and I drove back to my parents' house. The sun was still up, but inside me, the air felt like the calm before a storm. Daniel kept his eyes on the road the entire ride but occasionally glanced at me through the rearview mirror. Are you sure you want to handle this in person? He asked. I want to look her in the eye when I throw her out of my house. I replied coldly. Daniel nodded. Then be ready. She won't leave quietly. I smirked. My gaze locked on the road ahead. I'm counting on it. At 4 p.m., I arrived at the house. I stepped out of the car, Daniel beside me, holding a stack of legal documents. The door opened. My parents stood there, tense. Emily lounged on the sofa, legs crossed, phone in hand, acting as if nothing important was happening. Daniel cleared his throat and got straight to the point. Emily Thompson, I am Hannah's legal representative. Under the terms of property ownership, you no longer have the right to reside here. You have 48 hours to vacate the premises, or we will proceed with legal eviction. Emily raised an eyebrow, set her phone down, and let out a dry laugh. Oh, you're serious? She scoffed, arms crossed. I took a step forward, my gaze sharp. Do I look like I'm joking? Emily locked eyes with me, then spat out. You think you're so powerful? You and your little bastard are just leeches. A pathetic woman, abandoned by her husband, pretending to be strong but still just a miserable failure. Smack, without hesitation. I slapped her across the face. The sound of my palm meeting her cheek echoed through the room. Emily's eyes widened in shock as she clutched her face, unable to believe what had happened. She had never seen me do that before. The room fell into suffocating silence. My parents didn't say a word. They just stood there as if they knew Emily had crossed the line but didn't dare to intervene. I stepped closer, my voice so cold that even I was surprised. You can insult me all you want, Emily, but if you ever drag my son into this again, I promise, it won't just be a slap. Emily clenched her fists, jaw tightening in rage. You'll regret this, she growled, eyes burning with hatred. I laughed low, humorless. No, Emily. For the first time in my life, I regret nothing. Daniel stepped forward, placing a document in front of her. Sign this to acknowledge that you've received your eviction notice. Otherwise, expect a court summons next week. Emily turned to our parents, desperation in her eyes. Mom, Dad, you can't let her do this to me. My parents lowered their heads, silent. Emily looked around, realizing that, for the first time, no one was on her side, with no other choice. She snatched the pen and signed it with such force that it nearly tore the paper. Then she threw the pen onto the table, grabbed her suitcase, and stormed toward the door. Just before leaving, she turned back, her eyes full of fury. You'll pay for this. I shrugged, meeting her glare without fear. Try me. And with that, the door slammed shut behind her. This time Emily was gone. A year has passed since Emily left my life, and things have been so much better. My parents still live in the house I bought back for $250,000. I didn't leave them homeless or charge them rent, but there were limits. Once a month I take Noah to visit them. I want my son to maintain a relationship with his grandparents, even if my bond with them will never be the same. I still send them $2,000 monthly to help cover bills and living expenses. Not because I deeply affectionate them, but because they gave me life and I don't want to live with regrets later. And Emily, after leaving my house, she was forced to rent a small apartment. No more safety net or privileges. I heard she's now working as a sales clerk at a convenience store. It's not a bad job, but it's certainly not the life Emily once thought she was destined for. Sometimes my parents bring her up, sighing in regret. Hannah, Emily is still young. She just made some mistakes. My mother said once while I was visiting with Noah. I set my tea down, looked her straight in the eyes, and said coldly, "If you mention Emily in front of me again, you can leave this house." Silence. They knew I wasn't joking. They had already lost too many privileges when I took control of my life. And they understood one thing clearly: if they wanted any support from me, Emily was no longer a topic of discussion. Was I too cruel? I don't know. To some, I should be more forgiving. I should welcome Emily back and be more open-hearted toward my family. But to me, family isn't guaranteed by blood. It's built on respect and genuine love. My parents chose Emily over me, time and time again. And now I choose Noah. I choose myself. What about you? Did I do the right thing by keeping my distance from my parents and cutting Emily off completely? Or should I have given them another chance? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any future content. Thank you for watching. And always remember, sometimes walking away from a toxic family is the best way to love yourself.